email. And as there we go. And as always, the recording's also on our website. So the first thing we want to do is really just stop and share a moment of gratitude with our customers. I'll just kick this off by saying that this year has been a tremendous year for Bravo for many of our customers, and we've had our heads down doing a lot of work, and we just feel that it's really important that we stop and acknowledge how critical we know our customers are to us, to our success, how often we think about our customers, and how really grateful we are that you've chosen to partner with Bravo, that you choose to challenge us and share your feedback. And so I just want to say thank you. I also want to kick it over to Tally to say thank you, and also talk a little bit about the Facebook group, Tally, if you would.
Yeah, sure. So last week, our exec team met in San Diego for an exec offsite. We do these every few quarters just to make sure that we're all aligned and sort of set out for us 2023 strategy and beyond. And one of these sort of subjects came up, which is our involvement in Facebook and sort of the ease of use for our customers to use Facebook and the feedback that we get in there. And so the feedback that we get in Facebook is really critical, and it's really helpful to determine roadmap and sort of like set us where we're going. And so over the last few quarters, we've taken steps back out of Facebook. Like Kathleen said, we've been really heads down. This release is a huge release. And we've been just across the entire organization really working hard to get at least this release and one more out before the end of the year. We're going to be re-examining getting back into Facebook and being more involved in there. Like Kathleen said, I mean, we're just so grateful for all of you. I never want anybody to feel like we're cutting out a channel of communication. And so we're going to look for ways to re-engage in Facebook communities in a way that sort of makes sense for us and for you moving forward. So over the next few weeks, you might see us popping back in there, looking for feedback. So if you do, it's us. And I just wanted to say, you know, the feedback that we got over not being in Facebook was also super helpful. So thank you for those of you that said, hey, I think that you really should be in here. We're always, you know, willing to listen and hear your suggestions. So appreciate that.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, we can move on. Just a couple of other things I want to mention. For those of you may remember that Bravo launched the 90 Days of Retail campaign last year, and we're redoing that this year. It was really successful. This is not just for Bravo customers. If you are not a Bravo customer, I encourage you just as much, scan the QR code that's on your screen. And we know that this time of year, with all the holidays coming up, is a critical time for pawn shops and for any retailer. And so we want to provide something that's super tangible and provide a lot of resources that can help this be an incredibly successful Q4. So the way that this works is every week, you're going to get one email from Bravo, and it has a simple action item in there. And then we also provide the tools and resources to execute that action item. So I know as a marketer that just sometimes starting and not knowing like where to start in marketing can be the hardest part. So if you go to the landing page, you'll see a 90-day retail calendar that's on there. Every week has kind of a theme, an action item, and then the landing pages actually have all of the resources that support our suggested action item. Every single week, this landing page is updated. So it just becomes this incredible resource. As you can see, what's already sitting on there, if you haven't checked it out, are holiday text message templates. So these are things that you can copy and paste, use them. You can modify them a bit if you want for your own store. We have blogs that talk about like best promos. If you're a Bravo customer, there's videos in there from Tally about how to set up your custom list so that you can market better. But I really encourage you, again, Bravo customer or not, go to that landing page. A lot of resources are out there that you can use during the holidays. And then quite honestly, you could use them past the holiday season as well. And just speaking of resources, if we move on to the next slide, if you haven't checked out Bravo's website lately, I would encourage you to do that. We've been doing a lot of work, again, trying to make the website something that's just more valuable to everybody, so you can see the products we have, what benefit that they would be to you, but also our blogs. There's a lot more content out there, just tips, tricks, resources you can download and use for your team. So I'd encourage you to check that out if you haven't recently. And I think that may be all of the updates. It is. So now we're going to jump into everything that's coming next week. There is a lot of stuff. Callie and I will be monitoring the chat and Q&A. Jump in with any questions or any comments that you have, and we'll monitor that. So Christy, let's kick it off with new features and enhancements to E44 and Firearms.
All right, awesome. Welcome everybody. Just want to first start off by saying thanks for joining. But the release is actually going to happen, is currently scheduled now for Tuesday night. So come Wednesday, when you get into your shops in the morning and you launch Bravo, the new release will download and be available to you. So it had originally been planned for this week. So if you were expecting it this week, we had to push it off to the following week. So we'll be set to go next Wednesday morning. So let's jump in and check out some of the new features and enhancements we've made to E4473. The first enhancement we undertook was really important to us as an organization, because we believe in our product making your lives easier in the shop. And the process to transfer firearms, whether it be from an FFL to a customer or a private party transfer where you're facilitating the transfer between two persons, was a little difficult. It threw off your accounting a little. So we wanted to make it faster, we wanted to make it easier, and we wanted to make it as painless as possible. So we dug in and we rewrote the process. So I'm going to show you a demo of a private party transfer, but I just want to note that we do have videos already created. They're available to you in the Solution Center today. So if you've got E4473 as part of your product lineup, you can get your employees in the Solution Center to start training on the how-to for vendor transfers. And then what happens if you end up having to either deny the person yourself, or if the background check comes back denied, how you handle the denial, the private party sales, and how you handle those denials as well. So those 4 videos are up and available for you to check out right away. So let's jump right into Bravo and we'll start. So the first thing that you'll notice is I might be in the wrong. I'm in the wrong store. I apologize. Oh, wait, no, I am in the wrong store. I'm so sorry. Give me 1 second. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice on the right-hand side is there is a new drop-down menu option called third-party transfers. So this is where you'll start your third-party transfer, whether it be a private party or an FFL to a consumer. So we can drop down, and we're going to go ahead and, like I mentioned, we're going to do a private party. So I'm going to start that firearm transfer. So Bravo's first going to prompt up here for the seller or the transferee. So we're going to go with a couple characters of the seller's first and last name, and here's Tally Mac. Super simple. Now we're going to enter in the buyer's information. So we'll go say that I am the buyer in this situation. Now, again, if the customers are brand new, you're just going to select add new customer and then enter in your customer's information. Or if you're using one of our ID scan solutions, just zip that through and the information will go in. So we've got our buyer, we've got our seller. Now it's time to identify the firearm. So we're going to say I've got a Glock 23, and it's going to move us into the add item screen. In here, only ATF AND book information is required. So you do not need to fill in all of these metadata questions because you're not bringing in the item to sell it. We're just doing a transfer. So the grade, the finish, the length of the barrel, that's all insignificant. So just whip in the serial number. You're going to select the action, the caliber. And then if you've got the requirement of an importer like I do in my system, you'll enter in the importer, and that's it. You just select next from there. Now we've got the seller, the buyer, and the firearm all in this consumer private party transfer. To go ahead and move forward, we're just going to select accept. And then Bravo's going to ask us what's going to happen with this firearm. So we've got both consumers in the store in this scenario. So are they going to leave? Is somebody going to be leaving the item at the store? At this point, no, they're not going to be leaving. I've got both people here. The firearm will not be left behind. So I'm going to say don't create A&D book record. There's an opportunity to change this later. If it so happens that there is a delay, you can change it to yes, create A&D record. But in our experience in surveying customers, 99% of the time, a firearm is not left at the shop. So in this scenario, I'm going to say don't create record, and then I'm going to choose accept. This is because I don't have a printer set up. So you notice now Bravo is going to move me into the transaction screen where it automatically added my fee. Of course, we can always change it if the appropriate one isn't selected. We're going to go with transfer fee on this one. Select OK. And then we're going to go ahead and tender out that transaction for the fee. So we'll say the customer gave us cash, $32.55 is their change. And this is a new button here, save and finish. So instead of selecting OK and then save and then finish, now it's just simply save and finish when there's no outstanding tender or transactions. Once that's complete, Bravo automatically is going to move us into the E447 start screen, where upon the release, you'll notice that this currently is not highlighted, but when we do the release, this button will be highlighted, and then we would see Tally Mac's name here under the private party transfer. We're going to go ahead and choose send link. So I can either, again, send this link to my customer via a text message, or I can, grab my iPad or whatever device it is I have behind my counter, scan the QR code, and then hand the device over to the customer. So we are in a staging environment. So, all right, so here we go. We can verify the customer's number. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and copy, close this out, and then we can save and suspend this transaction so that we can help the next customer in line while the consumer is filling out this 4473 form. So I'm going to quickly do that now. So we'll go into here, paste that QR code.
And as Christy's going through the E4473 process, we realized the chat is turned off. So instead of using chat, if you just use the Q&A little button, we can answer your questions in there. Sorry about that. So again, at the bottom of the screen, you should see a little Q&A with two little message bubbles, and we can chat in that way.
This is another update we made a little bit earlier this year. So as I fill out my zip code, you'll notice now it's going to highlight or populate. So as you type more, I was exact, so it went and grabbed it. But now the city, state, and county was automatically filled in based off of my zip code. We made this update based off of customer feedback, in that the number one thing that consumers get wrong on this 4473 is they misread county for country. So now that isn't going to be a problem. However, if I wanted to, I could come in and update it. So you always want to be sure to make that employees do that second check on these forms. Oops, state. And then I'm going to fill all the questions out properly so we don't have any mistakes. And then the customer is going to tap to sign. And then we validate the certification date. So it can't be before today's date, can't be after today's date. And then accept. So now that my customer has completed the form, we'll go ahead and bring her up. Came into the wrong Bravo. All right, we're going to hit last to bring up the last customer. No customer came in between. And then we're going to move into the transaction tab. And we're going to hit pending transactions. And then here's the firearm we just started. So I'm going to select OK to choose it. And it looks like we have an address not match, but looking at the ID, it's correct in the ID. I can update the customer profile and then this will go away. But today we're just going to go ahead and skip it and move along. At this point, then your employee would want to make sure to pop up that E4473 and perform the second round of checks to make sure that none of the yes, no questions or any additional documentation is necessary based on how they answered those questions. Everything looks great. We want to go ahead then and complete the ID information. And then we're going to go ahead and accept this form. And then Bravo's going to move us right into the background check. So if you are currently using the NICS e-check, you'll notice there is this handy new button here. So when you select the NICS e-check, we're going to take all of the information that you filled out on that 44 or your customer filled out on that 4473 form, and we're going to automatically populate it to NICS in the exact order that it should be in. And then results will come back, whether it was proceed, denied, cancel, or delayed. So we'll say that we did receive a proceed. We'll go ahead and put in the NTN number. You can also add in optional examiner name and their number. And then we're going to go ahead and choose next. The employee who's releasing the firearm is going to go ahead and sign the E4473. You'll notice we've got the $0. At this point, we can add more to the transaction, but right now we are in a transfer pickup mode. We'll select next to wrap it up, choose save, and no receipt. And that's it. That is the process from start to finish. So let's cruise in and take a look at the Amd Book Report. So we'll go into ATF Amd Book, select preview. I'm going to look at disposed of today. And we're going to go ahead and switch the format to the Bravo print version so that we can also look at that E4473. So here's the firearm, who we acquired it from, who it was disposed to, and you can see it was received transfer item from private party. 192 is the line number. So if I want to view that E4473, just pop in 192. And now the E4473 is available. So that's it. Super streamlined, much faster than it was before. All right, are there any questions in chat before we move on?
No
No
questions.
question.
Awesome. Okay. So couple of requirements and notes is that, first of all, for this new process to work, as you can see, you'd need to have E4473. And there's actually 3 new security bits that come with this feature that you are going to want to allow or disallow or not allow certain employees. So the first one is if you want to allow an employee to review and manage the firearm transfer process. So each employee is either going to be set to allowed or not allowed. When we release this version of Bravo, we will actually run a script that will automatically allow certain manager groups to perform these transactions. But if you need to go ahead and open it up to additional employees, you'll want to just go through your system configuration and then you select that employee that you want. And it's in that security tab under the main menu and third-party transfers. And you'll just want to set that to allowed. If you leave it as not allowed, it's just going to look for a manager to come over and override or allow that exception to happen. The next security bit is if you want to allow employees to receive firearms for a transfer from an FFL vendor to a private party. So again, we will run a certain script that will automatically allow certain manager groups to have this approval. So when you wake up Wednesday morning, certain managers will already have it. But if you want to allow other employees to also have it, it's in the same fashion where when you go into your system configuration, you select your employee, go into the security tab, and that will be under the main menu. And it's actually says start. Oops, we got cut off there. Start. It'll say receive firearms for transfer. So start. Oh, my apologies. It says start firearm transfer. So we missed that there. So again, if they're not allowed to do it, it's going to look for an exception. And then the final and third security bit is if you're going to allow a pickup of a firearm transfer. So that's when you're actually allowing an employee to release that firearm. Again, we're going to run that script, allowing certain manager groups to automatically be able to do this upon the release. If you need to allow other people, you'll go back in system configuration in your employee security, the menu tree. This time you'll go down to the transactions, point of sale, and you'll select firearm transfer. The next update we made for E4473 is we've added the ability to use E4473 with consignment returns. When we originally developed it, we actually didn't realize how many of our customers were doing consignments on firearms. So it was a bit of a oversight on our part. So we wanted to make sure that we went back and worked this into the workflow. So I'm going to quickly go ahead and demo this as well. We also do have a video already up and in the Solutions Center for the how-to video on returning consignments. So let's pop into Bravo. Excuse me. For consignments returns, you can drop down into consignments and select consignment returns, or if it's a specific customer who has come in and they're looking for the return of their consignment, you can just type in their name, find their user profile. Excuse me. Select the consignment button. And then any current consignments they have are available. So we've got just the one, and we can see the status on this particular firearm is return due. To return it, I'm just going to select return. Okay. And then if there is a fee associated with the return, we can add that now. Otherwise, it was a consignment. I'm going to go ahead and in this case, I'm just going to delete that fee. So there's no dollar amount due. Select next, save, and then no receipt. And then Bravo is going to move us right back into the E4473 start screen, where the consumer can then begin the E44. I'm going to go ahead and save and suspend so we don't go all the way through this transaction again. But at the end, you just release the firearm. All right. Any questions on that before I move on? Nope. Okay. So a couple of notes and requirements is, again, you need to have E4473. If you don't have E4473 or it's disabled, then there's going to be, you'll see no process change from what you're doing today. And then in the firearm consignment returns, it's actually blocked from a third party picking up that firearm. So you won't be able to have a third party come in to pick up that firearm. Next, we've also added NFA and NFA item field that's going to help with the automated 3310 reporting. So there's some NFA items that are required to be reported. So now you'll be able to identify those in Bravo so that they will automatically show up. So when you select a category that is an NFA item, you'll notice a new drop-down option here. Bravo is going to ask, is the 3310 applicable? So it's either no, yes, it is for pistols and revolvers, or yes, it is for rifles. Now there's one note on that is when you're bringing that particular item, if it's an NFA item in on a pawn, we're not going to ask you that question because we don't like to ask any additional questions that's not necessarily needed. We don't know that you're going to be pricing and selling that firearm. So we will ask that question if the loan defaults once it's moved into the pricing section of Bravo and you're actually pricing it out. That is where then we will require that piece of information to be filled in. I'm going to keep rolling. The next thing that we did is we updated the copy, which used to read incomplete no sale to incomplete did not transfer. And we did that simply just to match ATF verbiage. It just made it a little bit easier as ATF agents are coming in. It's, you know, one less question they have to ask you. They recognize that verbiage. So we made that update as well. And again, you have to have E4473. Like we just reviewed a few moments ago, we validated the input or updated the input and validation for the zip code. So again, you just want to make sure that even though, you know, it's being put in properly, customers can always make that change. So a second round of validation should always be done by the employee to ensure that the form wasn't updated manually by the transferee. Next up, which is super exciting, I know a ton of people have been waiting for, and we just talked about it, but it is the automated e-NICS check. So before releasing it, it is going to go into beta testing. So we have our customer selected who's going to start the beta testing for us. Upon the successful validation of this new product, we will roll it out to all of our existing customers who are using the e-NICS check. One thing that is required, we noted, is the Google Chrome plugin. And that Google Chrome plugin is called Bravo and E4473 Auto NICS Background Check. So you'll want to go out to the Google Chrome plugins and go ahead and download that. Once that's complete and we've released it, it will work beautifully. And that's it for E4473 updates. I'm going to give just a second.
Any questions on that? Go ahead, drop them in the Q&A. No questions right now though, Christy.
Okay, cool. Let's move along to mobile updates. So the first thing that we did is we've created a retail only app called Baya. We've picked up a lot of retail only stores that specialize in firearms, and they were super jealous of the pawnbrokers and the mobile pawn and begged, and so we delivered. Now there is a retail only app called Bravo where customers will be able to do everything that they can do in mobile pawn except the pawn. So shopping, automated push notifications, layaway payments, submitting items they might want to sell, and then chatting with designated employees at the store. So you notice it's going to have a little bit different look, color, feels, but all of the same great features as Mobile Pawn. So one of the requirements would be obviously BIA has to be enabled for this to work. Now here's a big one. We do have a lot of pawnbrokers that also have just firearm only stores. So you can't actually offer both apps. You're going to have to choose whether you want to offer Mobile Pawn or BIA. Chances are, if you're a pawnbroker, you're going to want to offer Mobile Pawn because then the pawn payments can be made. Whereas on BIA app, those pawn payments can't be made. So if you're using Bravo and your enterprise and your stores are connected, you're going to have to choose which app you're going to want to use. With the BIA app and all of these mobile updates, they always become available a couple of days after the Bravo release. And we do that just to make sure that our release is solid and everything is working properly before we mix in the mobile updates. So it'll be just as provided the release goes well, which typically it always does. It should be released into both the Google Play Store or Apple within a couple of days after the release. So we would expect, maybe Friday, Monday, Tuesday of the following week, you can start to look to download that.
So 2 things real quick. Just a clarification, you do not need to have the BIA marketplace enabled to use the BIA app. Is that correct? Separate product.
That is
okay.
correct.
And can you share the release date? I realized we didn't do that at the beginning of the webinar.
Oh, I did. So the release date was
moved.
moved.
You did.
Yeah. It was originally, our release date was originally going to be tonight, but we did have to move it. There was a couple things we wanted to squeeze in there. So the release date is now scheduled for Tuesday night, and then Wednesday morning when you open Bravo, the download will be available. It'll just download for you. The next thing that we did for both Mobile Pawn and BIA is the apps are now going to generate a barcode that helps to identify users or customers in Bravo. It's become more and more popular. We're seeing a lot of different apps do this. We followed suit. It made a lot of sense. It makes it a lot faster. When customers are coming in the store, you can just scan the barcode and it's going to pull them up into Bravo. Also helps with avoiding duplicate customers. And just keeps the database a little bit nicer. You can use that barcode in the smart search, on the dashboard, in the transaction screen, or in the customer search fields on the dashboard, transaction, and add item screen. Just like as a note, if you're trying to scan that barcode and you're having troubles, typically the reason is that the consumer has the light too low on their phone. So if you're struggling getting that barcode, suggest that they bring up the brightness on that smartphone, and that should help or make it work. If you're noticing that still doesn't work, please submit a Zendesk case. We've done a ton of testing with a ton of different phones, but of course, when things go out there in the real world and we're going from hundreds of transactions to thousands and thousands of transactions, we're able to maybe see different trends. So please, if you notice that the barcodes are not scanning and you have, customers updated and put the resolution all the way to the top, let us know so we can work on that if needed. So again, you need to either have the BIA app or the Mobile Pawn app. Oh, that's a repeat. My bad. Either mobile or BIA needs to be enabled for the store. You actually don't need to focus on any specific field before scanning the barcode. So if you're already on the Bravo dashboard, customer walks in, they pop up their phone and they hand it over to you, you can just scan it. You don't need to focus on any specific area. Bravo will immediately recognize what you're trying to do. Support for a barcode customer search is only going to apply to the primary customer. And again, this feature will become active a few days after the release of Bravo next week. And then the last update we've made for Mobile Pawn and BIA app is we've created a dynamic field. And that dynamic field is called Mobile App Link. And it's for the templates that you'll be sending out. It can be used for either SMS or text message or a push notification. So if you use that dynamic field in a text message, the link actually expands to prompting the download with an activation key. So you can see just by adding mobile app link into your message, it will actually read out, download our app to manage your payments here, enter the activation code, and then we supply them an activation code to activate your account. If your customer already has Mobile Pawn, then the link will actually expand to please click here to manage your Mobile Pawn payments. So that's what each of these two look like. And then let's just cruise back into Bravo real quick so we can take a look at where that's set up. So in your system configuration, under configuration, we'll cruise on down to text message. And then within these templates here, you'll now notice you can add in the Mobile Pawn link. And that's it. That one item will expand depending on whether it's a SMS or a Mobile Pawn push notification that's sent. All right, so again, you need to have either the Mobile Pawn app or BIA. Like I just showed you, it's added to all of the store configuration templates. So doesn't matter if we're talking about layaways, loan notices, courtesy reminders, past due, it's all going to be under either the text message configuration, which I just showed you, or the Mobile Pawn configuration. So you'll want to make sure you configure both in SMS and Mobile Pawn if you want to use those. And then again, this enhancement is going to become available active a couple of days after the release. And that wraps up our mobile updates. Are there any questions? All right.
None
cool.
that I can see.
All right, our favorite part, customer suggestions. All right, so the first one we did was for our friends across the pond in the UK. We are now going to be copying a tax group from a parent item whenever a split occurs. And this is going to happen regardless of the split type and regardless of the item source. So could have been a pawn, could have been a buy, could have been, a purchase. As long as the split happens, we're going to go ahead and copy that tax group. This is only going to affect our UK clients, and this rule is going to automatically apply upon the release of Bravo. So there's no action needed on your part. The magic's just going to happen. The next update we made was for our friends in the North. We have added Canadian provinces and territories to Bravo's driver's license and ID pick list. So just making it a little bit easier for you all. You do need to submit a Zendesk support case if you'd like this update to happen. So upon the release, just go ahead, submit a Zendesk support case, and we will update that for you. Also for our Canadian friends who are dealing in firearms, they have license number formats that are different than ours. And then also it's business firearm license, I believe is what they call it, as opposed to FFL. So when you open up Bravo after the release, you can come into your own store profile. And if you're a Canadian customer, you'll notice FFL is now BFL business name. So you can go ahead, get in there and update it yourself. No Zendesk support case is required for this. Any questions? See, something's in Q&A, but I can't see it.
I'm on it.
Okay.
It's about text notices for loans and letting customers or consumers have the ability to choose which method they would like their notice in. So we've talked about this in a few customer suggestions meeting. It hasn't made a release date yet, but we do see the benefit of giving consumers the choice. Whereas right now, if they have Mobile Pawn, that's the way that they're getting their notices. So we're working on that, Tony.
All right. Next up, we had planned on, so if you saw any of the sneak peek what's coming videos, we talked about how we're going to create accommodation for no expiration on driver's license. We're just noticing more and more states starting to have the no expiration. So it unfortunately didn't make the release. It will be in the next one. Apologies, but it will be coming soon. We reviewed this, so we updated that button from OK to save and finish when no outstanding balance is due on a transaction. And again, we did this as just part of our initiative to reduce clicks. And then this also should help reduce the likelihood of any Fortis orphan transactions, because what happens is once we have captured that money from Fortis, the save and close will just happen, as opposed to giving employees even the opportunity to hit that back button, which is what sometimes can create those orphan transactions. No requirement for this update. The magic's just going to happen with the new version of Bravo. The next thing that we made was created an exception when employees go to change a customer's name. So you can see in this example where I was changing it from Andrea to Christy, it requires a manager override now. So we did this at the request of some of our customers, you know, for employee reasons. I don't know. You can guess why, I guess. But you certainly can turn this off if you want. You can submit a Zendesk ticket, and we can actually turn the store off so that this exception doesn't pop. However, employees, you can go ahead and update them to edit customer name in the security bit if you want to leave it on, but only allow certain employees to do it. And that's done, again, under the employee security tree, and it lives right under your customer and then edit customer name. So it'll either be allowed or manager approval. And again, when we make the release, we will automatically run a script allowing certain managers to automatically have this security. The next thing that we did was we overhauled our packing slips. Some of the major updates we made was changing the text from red to black. It's just a little bit, you know, easier on the eyes, nicer to look at and read. We removed some page numbers. We extended this signature line so somebody can actually sign it now. And then instead of it just saying signature, we updated it to employee signature. So it's little more obvious what's supposed to happen there. We've replaced the Baya and eBay logos that used to be up here with just plain black text. And that, of course, indicates the order source. And then we added some QR codes, download the app, shop used guns, shop Baya, down at the bottom of the receipts. So in order for this feature to be with you, of course, you just have to have e-commerce channels active. And then just to keep in mind, some of the reasons why you'd want to pack in a packing slip, it's been pretty controversial on our Facebook page. We're always open to listening and hearing more feedback. But there's really great reasons to include these packing slips for your customer, and not only for your customer, but it helps with the process too. So it helps ensure for your employees that the shipment is complete if there was multiple items within it. And then it's also great because it has a full listing for the seller when they're receiving their packages, or the buyer rather. Just like other e-commerce sites where there's multiple vendors selling, as a consumer, I might have purchased multiple things from different vendors. So it's always nice to receive a packing slip so I know I got what I was supposed to have. Everything is in my order. Makes it easier to identify any damaged items, serves as confirmation that every item again was received, and then gives customers the ability to estimate the value of their shipments. Next up, we had made an update to our Ofac Sdn process. So it was requiring an exception, which then created the report that the Ofac is looking for. If they come in, they want to know how many Ofacs hits did you have? And then what did you actually do with the hit? Was it a mismatch? Was it, did you do business with the person? What we found out through popping up this exception was that we were actually getting a lot of false positive hits. In the last update, we didn't update our strategy. Nothing changed there. It was just simply a warning. But that warning prompted our customers to really start looking at those hits. And then we were receiving reports that, hey, these are hitting at really low likelihoods of them being actual matches, which we would call a false positive hit. So we went in, we looked at our code, we updated it. So now you should see a lot less or hopefully no more false positive hits on these SDN matches. Again, this is for US pawnbrokers only. It is a requirement for all US pawnbrokers. The hits do require approval again, and that approval creates that exception reporting where if the Ofac walks in, then you'll have everything that they are looking for. My recommendation is to be making notes when you do make those exceptions, what action you took on each hit. Otherwise, that exception report isn't going to mean a whole lot. And then again, if you want to allow all of your employees to do this, in the last release, again, we'd run scripts for certain managers, but if you want to open that up to even more employees approving the hits, you can do so. And that's under the employee profile in the security tab under main menu and transactions. And then it's just acknowledge Ofac Sdn. Next up, this has been requested forever. We are finally here and ready with a QuickBooks Online export format. So for all of you that have moved to online QuickBooks, we're ready for you now. The caveat, you need to have the accounting integration enabled for the store. And then there is a third-party tool, Sassent, I believe is what it's called. You can Google it. It's a third-party tool that actually makes that API call out to the QuickBooks to import those journal entries for you. So you need to have it enabled with us, and then you need that Sassent third-party tool to make it work. And finally, the big one that we've been talking about and working on forever is phase one. And this is quantity support for SKU inventory. What this is going to allow you to do is you can create custom SKU numbers. So you're going to be able to make whatever custom number that you like. You will now have an infinite number of SKUs, whereas with Bucket Skews, you were only allowed to have 9,999. You now have an unlimited amount. We've also added the quantity inventory SKU to sales. So what I mean by that is, let's jump into Bravo. Here's my custom SKU name that I made up. Now you'll notice there's a quantity. So I can highlight it, I can put 10, or I can roll through and put in a number. So that is what I mean by quantity. If you're acquiring another store, we're going to be able to transfer those SKUs, which previously we weren't able to do in most cases. So that's awesome news for anybody who's buying up and converting stores. The SKU tracking will be at a company and a store level. And this first phase one, we did not get serialized SKUs in there. So that will be coming in a very future near release. In fact, the next release, I believe we've got that scoped out for. So you'll be able to start adding in serial numbers as well. Just wanted to take a minute and talk about the differences the difference between a bucket SKU versus a SKU for inventory. So if you're a retailer on this call, you're probably thinking, what in the heck is a bucket skew? Well, bucket skew is what Bravo has today. It's what our pawnbrokers use. And they're typically used for like items that are not individually priced, that have probably fallen out of pawn or buy. So DVD, games, hand tools, socket wrenches, anything that is like, that they have a same price on. So we call those bucket skews. What skews inventory will be is the same make or model of items that are purchased from a vendor or from multiple vendors. So skewed inventory would be like ammo, holsters, gun cases. And in the near future, once we have serialized skew inventory, you'll be able to also enter in firearms. So those are the differences. If you're a retailer, you're probably never going to use bucket skews. So just kind of get the bucket skew out of your mind entirely. If you're a pawnbroker, you will now have the opportunity to take advantage of both. So there's a couple of updates I just want to point out, and some changes and some verbiage that's happening here. So first of all, right now, the way that Bravo sits today is you've got, your purchased jewelry under your inventory, and then you've got purchased general merchandise. And when you select that purchased general merchandise today, Bravo asks you, is it a bucket skew or is it like inventory? So we've actually broken that out now. So now purchased general merchandise is either going to be purchase skews, although we're still making some changes here. That is actually going to be add skew inventory. And then you'll have the purchase general merchandise, which is actually going to be add inventory. And then you'll notice a new button here, which currently is listed as edit inventory, but that is actually going to be edit. I'm sorry, there's a wasp in my house. Edit skew inventory. I get stung. So a lot of changes, but by next week, you'll see there's add skew inventory, add inventory, and then edit skew inventory. Not to be confusing. So a couple of awesome things. Again, it's going to be 20 characters long. Like I mentioned, you can use whatever, a combination of alpha and numeric. The only caveat to that is it can't match a Bravo number. So you wouldn't want to use like your 3-digit store code with a dash and the numbers. Bravo's going to recognize that as a Bravo number, and it's not going to allow that. If you leave the skew blank, Bravo's just going to automatically generate it for you. And like bucket skews, you can associate up to 5 barcodes with that skew. So here under UPC barcode, and then 4 additional aliases. I see someone has a hand raised.
I don't see that, Christy, but I know Tony had a question, but Tally's answering that one off for him.
It says on my screen, Sherry Rooker raised hand. Okay. Well,
Sherry, if you have a question, our chat's not working, but you can go into the Q&A, which is another option down below, and just enter your question in the Q&A.
Cool. And then the last thing that's new is now SKUs will be able to be added at the company level or at the store level. So let me demo to you what that means. So typically prior to this release, when you wanted to add a new bucket SKU, you had to go into the system configuration. You'd have to go up to the top of the company, and then you would add a bucket SKU here. If you have the product SKUs, you'll notice there is a new tab here. Unlike bucket SKUs, it's not going to automatically load all of the SKUs that you have. Reason being is it's not limited to 9,999. So if you have, thousands or hundreds of thousands of SKUs, to load all of those would really bog down the system. You wouldn't want that. So instead, what we've done is we've added the ability for you to just enter in the SKU, the UPC, a description of the item, Or now you'll notice we have an ad hoc reporting option available. So if you do want to see all of the SKUs you have enabled, I don't have very many right now, you can just check that box and then all of the ones that you have enabled will pop up. So that's one place where you can add new SKUs.
Christy, do we have a video on this yet?
We do not. This is the video
Okay.
I do not have yet.
All right, Tony, we'll get the video and
I'm waiting for, we're waiting on the actual verbiage updates.
Okay.
It's going to be really confusing if we make a video and then all of a sudden we change all the words again. So as soon as we've moved the new update in verbiage to staging, I can create those and we'll be sure to let you guys know. So the other place that you can add them now would also be then into inventory and then edit inventory. And then here you can either add bucket skew or add product skew. And it works and looks just the same. So it's quite familiar if you're familiar with the bucket skews already. If not, like I said, we'll have a nice couple, probably a couple nice videos to go along with this. We just reviewed that. So just a couple of notes and requirements is you must have the retail package. So all of our retail customers, you've got your retail package, this comes with it. And then this also is attached to purchase orders. So if you've got purchase orders enabled, then you'll just want to go ahead and submit a Zendesk ticket for us come day of release, and we can get it activated for you. Couple of other notes, we are using the same cost accounting method for phase 1, which is average cost. And that's the same accounting method that we use for our existing bucket SKUs. And then quantity jewelry is currently out of scope. However, items like watches are in. So just one of a kind unique pieces are currently out of scope. And that is it. That leaves us with 1 minute for questions. I apologize.
No, there was a lot to go over. I appreciate all of you who are asking questions, engaging as well. So it sounds like we have a couple of follow-ups on our end, besides sending this recording, which you'll get either today or tomorrow, as soon as language has been updated in staging. Christy's going to be creating the SKU kind of how-to and training videos. We'll make sure that everybody who's a Bravo customer actually gets those, and they'll also be on our onboard assist pages as well. Any other questions? Tally, anything that you wanted to add before we close out?
This next release will enable anybody with E4473 cloud storage to begin using it. So we're really, really excited about that. The ATF slipped in like one extra requirement when they put out the change that you don't need a variance. So you don't need a variance. You do need to give notice that you're going to be using it, and you can start using it as of the morning of the release. So if you're a cloud storage user, go ahead and give us a call and we'll get that enabled. And if you need any additional training, we have tons of training videos for you, all broken down into 2.5 to 5 minute videos on how to do that, what to do if an auditor comes in, so that they can access their portal and just the sort of full cloud storage process. But it's awesome because you won't have to print 4473s anymore. So everything can officially go in the cloud. And there's really nothing extra that you have to do besides give the ATF notice that you're going to do that. So that's really exciting. As you can see, I mean, this is just the highlights of this release. There are dozens of other enhancements and things that are going into this release. So make sure to check out the release notes on Wednesday morning. And check out our YouTube channel for the how-to videos of all of these different things. We've really been dedicated to doing like 2-minute videos for you so that you can quickly watch them, learn, and move on. And thanks so much for being here. We haven't done a webinar for a while. We were all like so excited to get back on and to talk with you all. and share what we've been working really hard on. And like I mentioned, we are trying to get one more release out before the end of the year. So once this release goes, we're back heads down, trying to crank out the next big bunch of work before holiday. So that's what we've got going on. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a customer. If you're a prospect, thanks for joining in. We hope that everybody learned something today and is excited as we are in getting this huge release out.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Christy, for all your work putting this together. Thank you, Tally. And thank you to everybody who joined us. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.